Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Peyton Doyle, host of The Peyton Doyle Show. Hope everybody is having a fantastic day today. And today, later in the show, I'll be getting into my most interesting rookies for this upcoming NFL season. I'll be giving you a top 5 on that. Then I'll be getting into Ezekiel Elliott's statement to all the people doubting him and all the haters, his Twitter rant to them. And I'll give my top 5 best running backs in the NFL today. But first, I have some news to report. The NBA has taken huge strides in their restart, as 3 days ago, they had their first day of 0 positive tests in the bubble. The bubble is now officially COVID-free. This means it's looking great for the probabilities of them finishing their season. They also had their first scrimmage games yesterday. One of the best ones was the Nuggets, Bol Bol, 16-10. Really excited about that. I think the Nuggets are a nice young team. But they went well. It was exciting. And while baseball and basketball, they're coming back, this is really great. I know there's no fans. I know the games don't matter. But just seeing all the highlights, it's really just what I need, because I really need stuff to talk about on this show, to be honest. But it just makes me feel good to see the live sports be back, and I'm sure all of you as well. It's very exciting. Now, in the NFL, there have reportedly been 59 positive COVID-19 cases. The NFL seems really behind the ball on this whole coronavirus situation, and players, they've been taking notice. Many notable players such as J.J. Watt, Patrick Mahomes, Odell Beckham Jr., Tom Brady, Drew Brees, many more, have been outspoken on their opinions on the way that the NFL is handling this unique situation. However, all of them have stated that they want to play football this season. And here's what J.J. Watt tweeted out on Sunday. Once again, in the interest of keeping everyone, players and fans, as informed as possible, here is an updated list of what we as players know and don't know as the first group sets report to training camp tomorrow. Hashtag we want to play. So here's the list that J.J. Watt provided for us fans as to what the players know and what they don't know as of right now. Number 1, we want to play. Okay, awesome. Everybody's on the same page as that. We want to watch you play too, don't worry. Number 2, we want to be as safe as possible. Makes sense. You should want to be safe. Your safety comes first. Number 3, the NFL can mandate that players show up to training camp regardless if any agreement has been reached between the NFL and the NFLPA. So for those of you who may not know what that means, basically what J.J. Watt is saying here is even if the NFL Players Association doesn't agree with the NFL's plans to handle COVID, the NFL still has the power to punish players who decide not to show up to training camp, which can become problematic, especially since there seems to be little to no plan for the NFL, and players, they're really genuinely worried about their safety and the safety of their families. So that could be a problem for the NFL right there. And at number 4, he says, we still have not been granted the full and proper training camp acclimation period necessary as recommended by medical and training staffs. So players, they need time to get their bodies right. They need to get back in shape so that they're able to handle football and they don't get injured. Then at number 5, we still don't know if there will be daily testing, every other day testing, etc. So on Monday, the NFL and NFL Players Association agreed to perform daily COVID-19 tests for the first 2 weeks of training camp. And according to ESPN's Dan Graziano, after 2 weeks of daily testing, if the positive test rate is below 5%, the NFL would move to every other day testing. And if it is above 5%, they will continue daily testing until that number gets below 5%. So that's a check mark right there. Number 6, we still don't know if there will be preseason games or not. Check that off. NFLPA and the league agreed there's not going to be any preseason games this season. Then at number 7, we still don't know how a positive COVID test will be handled in regards to others in close contact, in the huddle, directly engaged with, etc. This is the most interesting point to me because the way that football is, if a teammate gets COVID, odds are that more than one teammate has it. So do you quarantine the team or just those teammates that have the virus? Also, is this going to be listed as an injury? Like, is there going to be some sort of injured reserve for players who contract COVID during the season? Because that's almost a guarantee in the NFL. The NFL, they can't do a bubble like the NBA did. There's too many players. It would just be impossible. So what happens if or when a player tests positive for COVID during the season? That's an interesting question, and I'm not sure if there's a clear answer to it, but I also feel like there can't be a season until that question is answered. Then at number 8, J.J. Watt put, a strong and fair opt-out clause for those at higher risk or those with family members at higher risk has still not been agreed upon. This is important because sadly, there are going to be some players who they just simply cannot play this season because while football is important, at the end of the day, family and health is far more important. And I think that any sane human being would agree with me on that. So that's going to be important. Can players afford to not play? Because they need to be able to still earn money even though they're not playing. Because some of them, literally, they can't. They will put their families at risk and it's too dangerous. Basically, that's the end of the list. He goes on by explaining the meaning of his third point, and he finishes off by restating, we want to play. And I'm with you on that, JJ Watt. I want to watch you guys play too. But until there's a clear plan on player safety that follows guidelines given by health officials, I don't think there can be a football season until that happens. So now all of the COVID talk is over for today. Let's get into other news around the NFL. Unrelated to the coronavirus, last Thursday, Ezekiel Elliott tweeted about his frustration of criticism against him. In a series of tweets, Ezekiel Elliott said, there are a lot of great backs in this league, but I don't understand why the media has to talk down on my game just to uplift other backs. We are all talented football players and can ball. Check the stats. Since I entered this league, I have dominated year in and year out. Put some respect on my name. Women lie, men lie. The stats don't. Go do your homework. Almost 1,800 scrimmage yards and 14 touchdowns with no training camp, and now I'm not the same back? So, reading this, I asked myself this question, and that is, where does Ezekiel Elliott rank amongst the top running backs in the NFL today? So I put together a top 5 for all of you guys out there. You're going to criticize me. So without further ado, this is my top 5 running backs in the NFL today. Starting off at number 5, I have Nick Chubb. He was stellar last season. He really broke out last season after showing a lot of promise in his rookie season. He was second in rushing yards and averaged 5 yards per carry, which was second behind Derrick Henry, who averaged 5.1, a little bit more than that. He was also second in rushing yards per game. However, Nick Chubb is not that much of a threat in the receiving game, as many other running backs are. So for that, I have him at 5th because catching the football is extremely valuable for any position. Any skill position, you need to be able to catch the football, especially during this era of high-powered passing offenses. Now, at number 4, I have Derrick Henry, and nobody's going to agree with me on that because the hype around him is high. But here's why. He still has more to prove to me. This was his first season as the real feature back in that backfield. Throughout Derrick Henry's whole career, they have been always flirting with other backs like Dion Lewis. But this year was Derrick Henry's first year as the main man in the Titans' backfield. Plus, Derrick Henry has never been the most consistent back. Even this season. In weeks 1 through 9, he only ran for 100 yards once. Then he finished the season on an incredibly historic stretch that extended into the playoffs, but that's going to be almost impossible to replicate. He needs to prove to be a more consistent back before I can put him in the top 3. Plus, he has the same problem that Nick Chubb has, and that is he's not much of a threat in the passing game as well. So now at number 3, I have Saquon Barkley, and he's a generational talent. Statistically, he had a down season from his rookie season. He did miss 3 games due to injury, but while Saquon was on the field, he proved to be a generational talent, a true threat on the ground and through the air as well. His strength, size, speed, hands, athleticism checks every single box you would ever want from your starting running back. Saquon Barkley can one day be the best running back in the league. And if he stays healthy, he has the potential to become a Hall of Famer. Now, this is where Ezekiel Elliott comes in. I have Zeke at 2. He's the most reliable and consistent running back in the game right now. Always somewhere north of 4.5 yards per carry. No doubt. When you feed Zeke, good things normally happen. Since Ezekiel Elliott has entered the league, there has not been a running back as reliable and as consistent as Ezekiel Elliott. So that's why I have him at 2. He can also catch as well. Not as much as guys like, Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley, but he is still a threat through the air as well. And he's consistent and reliable. Like I said, he's always somewhere north of 4.5 yards per carry. That's why I have him at 2. You can count on him, no matter what. Feed Zeke. And now, at number 1, the best running back in the NFL. It was easy. Christian McCaffrey. The numbers, they speak for themselves. He's only the 3rd running back in history to rush for 1,000 and catch for over 1,000 yards in the same season. He's also one of the most dynamic players that this league has simply ever seen. A true Swiss Army knife. McCaffrey, no doubt, is Hall of Fame bound if he stays healthy. One of the most dynamic talents in history, and he's playing in the perfect era to get the most out of his unique talent. Christian McCaffrey, he has a very bright future ahead of him, and he might be at the top of this list for many, many years to come. Okay, now getting into my final list for the week. My top 5 most interesting rookies for this upcoming season. At 5, I have Joe Burrow. Obviously, the number 1 overall pick. They have to make the top 5 most interesting rookies. But will Joe Burrow be able to survive his rookie season in an extremely talented division with plenty of hungry defensive linemen that I'm sure would love to teach the young buck a lesson on what it's really like in the big leagues? It intrigues me to see what he can do in Cincinnati, because while people feel like Cincinnati is the worst place for Joe Burrow to go and that they're totally going to waste his career, like I said, he's going to struggle his rookie season, but I don't feel like Cincinnati is as bad of a situation for Joe Burrow as many think. I just think he will struggle in his rookie season. Regardless, I will definitely be paying close attention to Joe Burrow this season, no matter what. Now at number 4, I have Isaiah Simmons. How could you not be interested in a talent like Isaiah Simmons? One week, he can cover George Kittle, and the next week, he could be a spy on Russell Wilson or, sack Jared Goff the next week 3 times. He could do anything on the defensive side of the ball, and that's extremely dangerous, as we see with guys like Khalil Mack, who was able to make an all-pro team at 2 different positions in the same season. And Khalil Mack changes the game. All right, offensive coordinators, they have to be aware of where Khalil Mack is at all times. And they have to game plan against him specifically. I feel like Isaiah Simmons can develop into a player that has the same effect on the game. If he can, we will be talking about a very, very great player for years to come in Arizona. Now at number 3, I have Mekhi Becton. At 6'7" and 364 pounds, this mountain of a man is extremely athletic as well, running a 5'1" 40-yard dash. Look at the film on Mekhi Becton, and it's filthy. He just throws grown men around like ragdolls. It's actually crazy. He's no joke. I can't wait to see some of the blocks that this absolute unit of a man will throw in the NFL this season. I really can't wait. He's a giant. His team also really needs him. Last season, the Jets' offensive line gave up the 4th most sacks and the most quarterback hurries in the NFL. The Jets need Mekhi Becton to make an immediate difference on that offensive line. Mekhi Becton's play is crucial to the development of Sam Darnold. A young quarterback simply cannot be getting hit as much as Sam Darnold does. Maybe Mekhi Becton can help get rid of some of those ghosts that Sam Darnold is seeing by protecting him. Now at number 2, I have DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is another rookie where the team is desperate for him to come in and instantly produce for them. Kerryon Johnson just isn't cutting it in that backfield, without a doubt. He's not cutting it. DeAndre Swift will provide hope, legitimate hope, at the running back position for the Detroit Lions, which is something that they have never had throughout Matthew Stafford's entire career. For the past decade, the Lions, they've only had one 1,000-yard rusher. And that was when Reggie Bush had a little bit left in the tank and put together his last good season in the NFL and ran for 1,006 yards. So he barely broke that number of 1,000. Other than that, nobody has even been close to 1,000 yards. Nobody's ran for 900 yards in the past decade other than Reggie Bush. The next closest player to 1,000 yards was Joique Bell in 2014 when he ran for 860 yards on the season. That's awful. That's so terrible. Last season, Kerryon Johnson led the team in rushing with an abysmal 403 yards rushing. I think that DeAndre Swift will instantly have a positive impact on that Detroit Lions offense. And for all of you fantasy football players, I might be looking at him as a mid to late round steal in fantasy this season. Now, at number 1, I have Tua Tagovailoa. I can't be the only one that is excited about Tua, especially since his home and away jerseys were leading sales on NFL.com. The hype for Tua is real. Miami has real hope for the first time since Dan Marino at the quarterback position. And living in South Florida, I can tell you, everyone here, they're certainly excited for Tua Tagovailoa this season. There's no way that Ryan Fitzpatrick starts week 1, especially if Tua is healthy. Tua Tagovailoa is becoming too much of a figure to have on the bench. If he's 100% healthy, he's going to start week 1. Anytime that Fitzpatrick does anything wrong, Miami fans will be kicking and screaming for Tua to get put in the game. So for that, Tua is going to be the starter week 1 in my opinion. He has to be the most exciting rookie. He has the charm and the likableness. Everybody likes his personality. He's a good smile. He seems like a really good guy. The fans love him. He's incredibly talented. He's on a young team that people are really excited for. And on top of all of that, he's playing in South Beach. Doesn't get much better than that. So that's it. Thank you all so much for watching and or listening. Please make sure to like, follow, or subscribe wherever you may be listening to this podcast. Also, if you haven't done so, make sure to follow the show's social media at Peyton Doyle Show. That is at Peyton Doyle Show. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. I will be posting plenty of content on that throughout the week. So make sure to go check that out. And like always, make sure to stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.